2 years ago, Sophia stood in front of 200 people at the annual company gala and told everyone I was a failure. She said I was a dreamer with no substance, a man who talked big but delivered nothing. She announced she was leaving me for Ryan, a wealthy investor who actually knew how to make money. The room erupted in whispers and laughter. I stood there, frozen, as cameras flashed and phones recorded my humiliation. That night, I walked out of that hotel with nothing but my dignity in tatters and a burning rage in my chest. Everyone thought I disappeared because I was broken, defeated, destroyed. They thought John was done. But they were wrong. I did not vanish to hide. I vanished to build. For 2 years, I worked in silence, pouring every ounce of my pain into creating something extraordinary. I lived in a tiny apartment, survived on instant noodles, and coded for 18 hours a day. I had no social life, no distractions, no mercy for myself. Every rejection I had faced, every insult Sophia threw at me, every laugh from that crowd became fuel. My breakthrough came faster than I expected. Within 8 months, my app caught the attention of major tech investors. Within a year, I had my own company. Within 2 years, I became a self-made billionaire. Not million. Billion. My face was on magazine covers. My name was mentioned in the same breath as the greatest entrepreneurs of our generation. But I kept a low profile, operating under a business alias. No one from my old life knew that John, the failure, had become J.K. Sterling, the man everyone wanted to meet. And now, I was back. Not to beg for acceptance. Not to prove anything to anyone. I was back because I had business to handle in this city. But fate had other plans. The tech conference I was attending as the keynote speaker happened to be sponsored by my own company. And sitting in the third row, her face drained of color, her mouth slightly open in shock, was Sophia. Next to her was Ryan, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. They had no idea the man on stage, the billionaire everyone was applauding, was the same man they had destroyed 2 years ago. I smiled. This was going to be interesting. Let me take you back to where it all started. 3 years before that horrible night, I was a 26-year-old entrepreneur with more dreams than dollars. I had ideas, passion, and an unshakable belief that I could build something meaningful. I attended every startup event, every networking mixer, every pitch competition I could find. That is where I met Sophia. It was a spring evening at a downtown innovation summit. She walked into the room like she owned it, confident, beautiful, and sharp. She wore a black dress that was professional yet striking, and when she spoke during the panel discussion, everyone listened. She talked about the future of business, about taking risks, about believing in vision over immediate profit. I was captivated. After the panel, I approached her. My hands were sweating, my voice probably shook a little, but I introduced myself anyway. I told her about my app idea, a platform that could revolutionize how small businesses manage their operations. She listened intently, asked smart questions, and then said something I would never forget. She said, "John, you have something special. Most people talk. You actually think." I felt like I had won the lottery. We exchanged numbers, and within a week, we met for coffee. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into late-night brainstorming sessions at my cramped apartment. She was working in corporate marketing at the time, but she said my passion inspired her. Within 3 months, we were dating. Within 6 months, she quit her job to help me build my startup. We became partners in every sense of the word. Sophia was incredible in the beginning. She handled marketing, investor pitches, networking, all the things I was not good at. I was the creative mind. She was the business strategist. We were supposed to be unstoppable. I loved her deeply. I loved the way she challenged me, the way she pushed me to think bigger. I loved waking up next to her and talking about our future. We talked about getting married, buying a house, building an empire together. I gave her everything I had. I worked day and night to make our startup successful. But as months passed, cracks started to show. My first product launch failed. The app had bugs, the marketing did not reach enough people, and we barely made any sales. I went back to the drawing board, determined to fix it. But Sophia started to change. She became distant, critical, impatient. She stopped celebrating small wins and only focused on what was going wrong. Then Ryan entered the picture. He was a venture capitalist who had made his fortune investing in tech startups. He was older, polished, and wealthy. He attended one of our pitch events and showed interest in our company. Sophia was thrilled. She said this was our big break. But I noticed something else. I noticed the way she laughed at his jokes a little too hard. I noticed the way she dressed up more carefully on days we were meeting him. I noticed the way she started comparing me to him. "John, why can't you be more confident like Ryan?" "John, Ryan would have closed that deal already." "John, maybe you should let someone else handle the business side." At first, I brushed it off. I told myself she was just stressed. I told myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew something was changing. Our second product launch failed too. This time, it was worse. We had taken a small loan to fund it, and now we were in debt. Investors started pulling out. Sophia became cold. She stopped sleeping in our bed, choosing the couch instead. She stopped answering my calls during the day. And she started spending more and more time with Ryan. One evening, I came home early and found her on the phone. She did not know I was there. I heard her say, "Ryan, I cannot do this anymore. John is dragging me down. I have given him 2 years, and we have nothing to show for it. I need to think about my future." My heart shattered. I confronted her that night. I asked her if she was seeing Ryan. She denied it, said I was being insecure and jealous. She said I was projecting my failures onto her. She made me feel like I was crazy. I apologized. I actually apologized for doubting her. That is how much I loved her. I wanted to believe her. But things only got worse. She started criticizing me publicly. At meetings, in front of potential investors, she would undermine my ideas. She would say things like, "John is very creative, but he lacks execution skills," or, "We are working on improving his business acumen." It was humiliating, but I stayed quiet. I thought if I just worked harder, if I just proved myself, things would get better. Then came the company gala. It was supposed to be a celebration of local entrepreneurs. Sophia insisted we attend, even though I did not want to. She said it was important for networking. I agreed. I wore my best suit, which was not very expensive, and I went with her. That night, everything fell apart. The gala was held at the Grand Meridian Hotel, one of the most luxurious venues in the city. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, soft jazz music played in the background, and waiters in black ties carried trays of champagne. Everyone who was anyone in the business world was there. I felt out of place immediately. My suit was old, my shoes were scuffed, and I did not have the kind of confidence that came with success. But Sophia looked stunning. She wore a red gown that turned heads, her hair was perfectly styled, and she walked through the room like she belonged there. I tried to stay close to her, but she kept drifting toward other people, other conversations. And always, she ended up near Ryan. He was holding court near the bar, surrounded by admirers. He wore a custom-tailored suit and a watch that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. When he saw Sophia, his face lit up. He greeted her with a hug that lasted too long, and she laughed at something he whispered in her ear. I stood a few feet away, holding a glass of water because I could not afford to buy drinks at the bar. No one talked to me. A few people recognized me as Sophia's boyfriend, but their eyes quickly moved past me, searching for someone more important. I felt invisible. Then the speeches started. Local entrepreneurs were invited on stage to talk about their journeys. Ryan was one of them. He spoke about his investments, his successes, his vision for the future. The crowd applauded. Then, to my horror, Sophia was invited on stage. I had no idea she was going to speak. She took the microphone, smiled at the crowd, and began. She talked about the startup world, about ambition, about the importance of knowing when to let go of dead weight. My stomach twisted. Then, she said it. She said, "I want to take a moment to be honest with everyone here tonight. For the past 2 years, I have been working with someone who I believed had potential, but I have learned a hard lesson. Potential means nothing without execution. Dreams mean nothing without action. I have been held back by someone who talks a big game but delivers nothing." She paused, and then she pointed at me. "That someone is John." Everyone turned to look at me. Cameras flashed. Phones were raised to record. My face burned. She continued. "John is a dreamer. But dreamers do not build companies. Doers do. I have wasted 2 years on him. And I am done. I am moving forward with people who actually know how to succeed. People like Ryan." She gestured toward Ryan, who stood up and joined her on stage. He put his arm around her waist. The message was clear. The room erupted. Some people gasped. Some whispered. Some laughed. I stood there, frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Sophia looked directly at me, her eyes cold, and said, "John, I hope you figure out your life. But I am not waiting anymore." I do not remember walking out. I do not remember getting to my car. I just remember sitting in the parking lot. My hands shaking. My vision blurred with tears. My phone buzzed with messages. People were already sharing videos of the speech online. I was trending on social media. Hashtags like failure and dreamer were attached to my name. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to stop existing. But instead, something else happened. Rage. Pure, burning, unstoppable rage. I drove home, packed a bag, and left the apartment. Sophia and I shared. I did not leave a note. I did not say goodbye. I just left. I withdrew the last bit of money I had in my account, bought a bus ticket to a small town 3 hours away, and started over. I rented a tiny studio apartment above a laundromat. The walls were thin, the heat barely worked, and I could hear everything happening in the building. But I did not care. I set up my laptop on a folding table and got to work. For the first month, I barely left the apartment. I ordered food online, worked 16 to 18 hours a day, and ignored every message, every email, every call from my old life. People thought I had given up. They thought I was hiding in shame. But I was not hiding. I was building. I revisited every failed project, every mistake I had made, and I tore them apart. I studied successful apps, read every business book I could find, watched hundreds of hours of tutorials. I taught myself advanced coding, user experience design, market analysis. I became obsessed. And slowly, painfully, I started to see progress. My new app idea was different. It was cleaner, faster, more intuitive. I tested it obsessively, fixed bugs, improved features. I reached out to online communities, got feedback, made adjustments. No one knew who I was. I used a pseudonym. I was just another developer trying to make something work. But this time, I was not doing it for Sophia. I was not doing it to prove anything to anyone. I was doing it for me. The first 3 months were the hardest. I woke up every morning in that cramped studio, and for a few seconds, I would forget what had happened. Then reality would crash down on me like a wave. The humiliation, the betrayal, the laughter. I would lie there, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. Maybe Sophia was right. Maybe I was just a dreamer. Maybe I did not have what it took to succeed. But then I would remember her face on that stage, the way she pointed at me, the way she smiled, when Ryan put his arm around her, and the anger would return. I used that anger. I channeled it into every line of code, every design decision, every late night when my eyes burned and my back ached. I stopped sleeping, regular hours. I would work until I collapsed, sleep for 3 or 4 hours, then wake up and start again. I lost weight. My hair grew longer because I did not bother getting it cut. I wore the same clothes for days. I looked like a mess, but I did not care. No one was watching anyway. The loneliness was crushing. I had no friends in this town. I did not talk to anyone except the delivery drivers who brought my food. My phone stayed silent. At first, a few people from my old life tried to reach me. Old colleagues, acquaintances, even my younger brother. But I ignored them all. I could not face their pity or their judgment. I knew what they thought. They thought I was broken. They thought Sophia had destroyed me. Maybe she had. But I was rebuilding myself piece by piece. Some nights were worse than others. I would find myself scrolling through social media, torturing myself with updates from Sophia's life. She posted photos with Ryan constantly. Fancy dinners, luxury vacations, business events. She looked happy. She looked successful. And I was alone in a studio apartment that smelled like detergent from the laundromat below. I wondered if I was fooling myself. What if this app failed too? What if I spent months building something that no one wanted? What if I ended up broke, alone, and even more humiliated than before? The doubt crept in during the quiet moments, usually around 3 or 4 in the morning when exhaustion made my mind vulnerable. But I kept going. I had nothing else. This app was my lifeline, my only shot at redemption. I poured everything into it. My savings dwindled. I was down to my last few $100s. I ate cheap ramen and crackers. I turned off the heat to save money and wore layers of clothes instead. I was living like a homeless person, but I refused to give up. Then, 5 months after I left, something changed. I posted my app on a developer forum, asking for feedback. I expected a few polite comments, maybe some constructive criticism. Instead, I got dozens of responses. People loved it. They said it was intuitive, powerful, exactly what small businesses needed. One user said it was the best operations management tool they had ever seen. My hands shook as I read the comments. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Real hope. I spent the next 2 weeks refining the app based on the feedback. I added features, improved the interface, fixed minor bugs. Then I launched a beta version and offered it for free to a small group of users. Within days, I had 200 signups. Within 2 weeks, I had 1,000. People were not just using it. They were recommending it to others. Word spread quickly in online business communities. I started getting emails from small business owners thanking me, telling me how much time and money my app was saving them. Some offered to pay for premium features. I had not even thought about monetization yet, but suddenly, I saw the potential. I created a premium tier with advanced features and set a reasonable monthly price. Within the first week, 50 users upgraded. That was enough to cover my rent and food. Within a month, 500 users had upgraded. I was making more money than I ever had with Sophia. But I did not celebrate. I kept working. I hired a freelance designer to improve the branding. I hired a developer to help me scale the infrastructure. I stayed anonymous, operating under the name Sterling Solutions. No one knew John was behind it. I liked it that way. The business grew faster than I could have imagined. By month 8, I had 10,000 users. By month 10, 50,000. Investors started reaching out, asking to meet with the founder of Sterling Solutions. I ignored most of them. But one email caught my attention. It was from a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. They had done their research and figured out who I was. The email was direct. They said, "John, we know it is you. We know what happened. We do not care about your past. We care about what you have built. Let us help you take this to the next level." I stared at that email for an hour. Part of me wanted to delete it and stay hidden. But another part of me, the part that was tired of hiding, tired of being afraid, wanted to take the leap. I replied. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to California. The meeting changed everything. The investors were impressed not just with the app, but with the vision I had for it. They saw what I saw. This was not just a tool. It was a platform that could scale globally. They offered me $10 million in funding. I almost laughed. 10 million. 2 years ago, I could not get anyone to invest 10,000. I accepted the deal. With that funding, I expanded rapidly. I hired a full team, opened an office, launched a marketing campaign. Within 6 months, Sterling Solutions was valued at $100 million. Within a year, $500 million. And within 18 months, I took the company public. The IPO was a massive success. Overnight, I became a billionaire. Not on paper. Not in theory. A real, actual billionaire. I had more money than I ever dreamed of. But the strangest thing was, I did not feel happy. I felt numb. I had spent so long chasing this goal, so long proving everyone wrong, that I did not know what to do now that I had succeeded. I moved into a penthouse in the city. I bought expensive clothes, a luxury car, all the things successful people were supposed to have, but none of it filled the emptiness inside me. I still thought about Sophia. I hated that I did, but I could not help it. I wondered if she knew. I wondered if she had seen my name in the news, if she realized the man she called a failure was now worth billions. Part of me wanted her to know. Part of me wanted her to suffer the way I had suffered. But another part of me just wanted to move on. To forget she ever existed. I decided to return to my hometown for a tech conference. My company was sponsoring it, and I was invited to be the keynote speaker. I knew there was a chance I would see her. I knew it might be painful. But I also knew I could not hide forever. It was time to face my past. The conference was held at the same hotel where Sophia had humiliated me 2 years ago. The Grand Meridian. I had specifically chosen this venue when my team asked where I wanted the event. They thought it was just a nice location. They had no idea what it meant to me. Walking through those doors again felt surreal. The last time I was here, I was nobody. I was the man people laughed at, the man people pitied. Now, I was the guest of honor. My face was on posters throughout the lobby. Security guards escorted me through the back entrance to avoid the crowds. Reporters waited outside, hoping for an interview. I was wearing a custom-tailored navy suit, Italian leather shoes, and a watch that cost more than my old car. I looked the part. I felt the part. But inside, I was still that broken man from 2 years ago. The conference hall was packed. Over 1,000 people had registered to attend. Entrepreneurs, investors, journalists, students. Everyone who mattered in the tech world was here. I stood backstage, waiting for my introduction. My heart pounded. I told myself it was just nerves, but I knew better. I was looking for her. And then I saw her. Sophia was sitting in the third row, right side, next to Ryan. She wore a pale blue dress, and her hair was styled perfectly. She looked exactly the same, maybe even more polished. Ryan sat beside her, scrolling through his phone, looking bored. They had no idea. I was the keynote speaker. The conference organizers had kept my identity under wraps, building suspense. The audience only knew that J.K. Sterling, the billionaire founder of Sterling Solutions, would be speaking. They did not know J.K. Sterling was John. The host walked on stage and began the introduction. She talked about my company, my success, my impact on the industry. The audience applauded. Sophia clapped politely, still unaware. Then the host said, "Please welcome to the stage, J.K. Sterling, also known as John Matthews. The room erupted in applause. I walked on stage, and the spotlight hit me. For a moment, I was blinded. But then my eyes adjusted, and I looked directly at Sophia. Her face went white. Her mouth opened slightly. Her hands froze mid-clap. Ryan looked confused, then shocked. I smiled. Not a friendly smile. A knowing smile. I began my speech. I talked about failure, about resilience, about how the darkest moments in our lives can become the foundation for our greatest successes. I did not mention Sophia by name, but every word was aimed at her. I said, 2 years ago, someone told me I was a failure. They said I was a dreamer with no substance. They humiliated me in front of hundreds of people. And you know what? They were right. At that time, I was failing. But failure is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the moment when you decide who you are going to become. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. I continued. I could have let that moment destroy me. I could have believed what they said and given up. But instead, I used it. I used the pain, the anger, the humiliation, and I built something extraordinary. And now, 2 years later, I am standing here as proof that other people's opinions do not define you. Your actions do. The applause was thunderous. People stood up. Cameras flashed. I looked at Sophia again. Tears were streaming down her face. Ryan looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. After the speech, I was surrounded by people wanting to talk, to network, to congratulate me. I smiled, shook hands, played the part. But I kept one eye on Sophia. She did not leave. She sat in her seat, frozen, while Ryan whispered something to her. Finally, the crowd thinned. I was escorted to a private lounge backstage. I knew she would come. I knew she could not resist. And I was right. 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. My assistant opened it, and there she was. Sophia, her eyes red, her makeup slightly smudged. Can I talk to him, please? She asked quietly. My assistant looked at me. I nodded. She let Sophia in and closed the door behind her. We stood there, staring at each other. 2 years of silence between us. She spoke first. John, I cannot believe it is you. You look amazing. I did not respond. I just waited. She took a step closer. I had no idea. I heard about Sterling Solutions, but I never thought. I never imagined. Her voice trailed off. I kept my expression neutral. What do you want, Sophia? She flinched at my tone. I want to talk. I want to explain. I want to. She paused, searching for words. I want to apologize. I almost laughed. Apologize? For what? For calling me a failure in front of hundreds of people? For leaving me for Ryan? For making me feel worthless? She nodded, tears falling faster now. Yes. For all of it. I was horrible to you, John. I was cruel. I was wrong. I did not see what I had until it was gone. I crossed my arms. And what do you have now, Sophia? She looked down. Ryan and I. It did not work out. He was not who I thought he was. He used me to get close to investors, and then he left me for someone else. Someone younger. Someone with more connections. I felt nothing. No sympathy, no satisfaction. Just emptiness. That must have been hard for you, I said flatly. She looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. It was. But it made me realize what I lost. You were good to me, John. You loved me. You gave me everything. And I threw it away. I took a deep breath. You are right. I did love you. I gave you everything. And you destroyed me. But you also did me a favor. You showed me who you really were. And you pushed me to become who I am now. So thank you. Her face crumpled. John, please. Can we start over? Can we try again? I know I do not deserve it, but. I held up my hand, stopping her. No, Sophia. We cannot. You made your choice 2 years ago. And I made mine. I walked toward the door, ready to leave. She grabbed my arm. Please, just think about it. I have changed. I have grown. I know what matters now. I gently pulled my arm away. I am sure you have. But it does not change anything. I have moved on. And you should too. I opened the door and walked out, leaving her standing there alone. As I walked down the hallway, I felt lighter. I had faced her. I had heard her apology. And I had let her go. But the story was not over yet. The next day, I decided to stay in the city for a few more days. I had some business meetings scheduled, and honestly, I was not ready to leave yet. Something felt unfinished. That evening, I attended a private dinner for conference VIP attendees. It was held at an exclusive rooftop restaurant with a view of the entire city. The guest list was small, maybe 50 people, all influential figures in tech and business. I arrived late, intentionally. I did not want to spend more time than necessary making small talk. But as I walked in, I noticed her immediately. Not Sophia. Someone else. She was standing near the floor-to-ceiling windows, holding a glass of wine, looking out at the city lights. She had dark hair pulled into a loose bun, and she wore a simple black dress that was elegant without trying too hard. Something about her seemed familiar, but I could not place it. I walked over to the bar, ordered a drink, and tried not to stare. But she turned around, and our eyes met. She smiled, a warm, genuine smile, and walked over. "John Matthews, right?" she said, extending her hand. Or should I say J.K. Sterling? I shook her hand. "Just John is fine." She laughed softly. "I am Debra. Debra Chen. We actually went to college together. You probably do not remember me. I studied you for a moment, and then it clicked. Debra." She had been in my computer science classes. Quiet, brilliant, always sitting in the front row taking notes. "I do remember. You were the one who always asked the professor the hardest questions." She grinned. "Guilty. I was kind of a nerd. Still am. Actually. We talked for hours. She told me about her journey after college. She had worked at several tech companies, learned the industry inside and out, and eventually started her own software engineering consulting firm. She was doing well, not billionaire level, but successful and respected. What impressed me most was how grounded she was. She did not care about my money or my fame. She talked to me like I was just John, the guy from college who used to fall asleep during morning lectures. It was refreshing. At some point, Sophia entered the restaurant. She must have found out about the dinner and convinced someone to add her to the guest list. She scanned the room, and when she saw me talking to Debra, her expression hardened. She walked straight over to us. "John," she said, ignoring Debra completely. "I need to talk to you. It is important." I sighed. "Sophia, this is not the time. I am in the middle of a conversation." She glanced at Debra with barely concealed hostility. "Who is she?" Debra raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "I am Debra," she said calmly. "And you are?" Sophia did not answer. She turned back to me. "John, please. Just 5 minutes." I could see people starting to notice the tension. I did not want to make a scene. "Fine," I said. 5 minutes. I excused myself from Debra and followed Sophia to a quieter corner of the restaurant. She immediately grabbed my hands. "John, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I am begging you, please give me another chance. We were good together once. We can be good again." I pulled my hands away. "Sophia, we were never good together. You were with me because you thought I could give you something. And when I could not, you left. That is not love. That is not even close." Her eyes filled with tears again. "That is not true. I did love you. I got scared. I got impatient. I made a mistake." I shook my head. "No. You made a choice. You chose Ryan. You chose money and status over me. And that is fine. People make choices. But you do not get to come back now that things did not work out." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I know about your company. I know you are worth billions now. But I do not care about that. I just want you." I stared at her. And in that moment, I saw her clearly. She had not changed. She still only saw what I could give her. The difference was, now I had more to give. "You do care about the money, Sophia. If I was still broke, you would not be here. You would not have cried yesterday. You would not be begging me now. Admit it." She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. Because she knew I was right. "I am not interested, Sophia. I have moved on. You should too." I walked away, back to Debra, who was waiting patiently by the windows. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Everything is fine." We continued talking, and the rest of the night passed easily. Debra was smart, funny, and kind. She did not play games. She did not have an agenda. She was just real. When the dinner ended, I offered to walk her to her car. We took the elevator down together, and as we stepped out into the cool night air, she turned to me. "John, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "That woman, Sophia. She is your ex, is not she?" I nodded. "Yeah, she is." Debra studied my face. "Do you still have feelings for her?" I thought about it. "Honestly, no," I said. "I do not. I did once. I loved her more than anything. But she killed that love. And now, all I feel is nothing." Debra smiled softly. "Good. Because you deserve better than someone who only wants you when you are successful." I looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted inside me. Maybe I did deserve better. Maybe this was my chance to start fresh. Not with someone from my past, but with someone new. Can I see you again? I asked. Debra's smile widened. I would like that. We exchanged numbers, and I watched as she drove away. For the first time, in 2 years, I felt something other than anger or emptiness. I felt hope. But the universe was not done with me yet. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages. Something had happened. I called my assistant. What is going on? Sir, you need to see the news. I turned on the television. And there it was, a breaking news story. Sophia had held a press conference early that morning. She was on camera, crying, telling reporters that I had betrayed her, that I had stolen her business ideas, that the success of Sterling Solutions was built on her work. She claimed that 2 years ago, we were partners, and I had left with all the intellectual property and built my company without giving her credit. It was a complete lie. Every word of it. But she was convincing. She had documents, emails, contracts, all fabricated or taken out of context. She was trying to destroy me. My phone rang. It was my lawyer. John, we need to talk. This is serious. She is filing a lawsuit. She is asking for half of everything. I felt the anger return. But this time it was different. It was not wild or uncontrolled. It was cold and calculated. If Sophia wanted a war, I would give her one, and I would win. The lawsuit became the biggest story in the business world. Sophia versus John. The ex-girlfriend versus the billionaire. The media could not get enough of it. Reporters camped outside my office, my home, everywhere I went. Sophia played the victim perfectly. She gave tearful interviews, posted on social media about how I had used her and discarded her. She painted herself as the brilliant mind behind Sterling Solutions, the woman who had been erased from history. Public opinion was split. Some people believed her. Some people thought she was an opportunist. But everyone had an opinion. My legal team worked around the clock. We gathered evidence, witness statements, time-stamped files, everything that proved I had built Sterling Solutions entirely on my own after leaving her. We had records showing that I had developed the app months after our breakup, in a different city, with no contact with Sophia. We had testimony from my early beta users, my first employees, my investors. The truth was on my side. But the court of public opinion did not care about truth. It cared about drama. During this time, Debra stood by me. We had only known each other for a few weeks, but she never wavered. She did not ask me for explanations or reassurances. She just believed me. One evening, after a particularly brutal day of depositions, I sat in my penthouse, exhausted. Debra came over with takeout food. We ate in silence for a while, and then she said something I will never forget. John, no matter what happens, you have already won. I looked at her, confused. What do you mean? She smiled. You survived. You rebuilt yourself. You created something amazing. Even if she takes half your money, even if she damages your reputation, she cannot take away what you have become. No one can. Her words broke something inside me. All the anger, all the bitterness, all the need for revenge, it started to crumble. She was right. I had already won. The trial date was set for 3 months later. But 2 weeks before the trial, something unexpected happened. Ryan came forward. He contacted my legal team and offered to testify on my behalf. At first, I thought it was a trick. But he insisted on meeting me in person. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. He looked different than I remembered. Tired. Worn down. He sat across from me and got straight to the point. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I need to tell you the truth. Sophia is lying. I listened. He continued. 2 years ago, when she left you, she came to me with a proposal. She said you had ideas but no execution skills. She wanted me to invest in a new company with her. Using your concepts. I was interested, so I agreed. But she had nothing. No real plans. No intellectual property. Nothing. It became clear pretty quickly that she had been exaggerating. When I realized she could not deliver, I ended things with her. That is when she started this vendetta against you. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. He looked down at his hands. Because she is doing the same thing to me. She filed a separate lawsuit against me last week, claiming I owe her money for ideas she gave me. It is the same pattern. She burns through people and then sues them when they move on. I need this to stop. He agreed to provide emails, text messages, recorded conversations. Everything that proved Sophia had lied about our partnership and her contributions. With Ryan's testimony, the case fell apart. Sophia's lawyers tried to salvage it, but the evidence was overwhelming. On the day of the trial, the judge reviewed the evidence and dismissed the case within 2 hours. Sophia was ordered to pay my legal fees and issue a public apology. She sat in the courtroom, stone-faced, as the verdict was read. She did not cry. She did not argue. She just stood up and walked out. I never saw her again after that day. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she left the city, moved to another state, and tried to start over. I did not follow her story. I did not care. The public apology came a week later. It was brief. Posted on her social media accounts. She admitted that she had fabricated evidence and misrepresented our relationship. She did not sound sorry. She sounded defeated. But it was over. Finally, it was over. In the months that followed, my relationship with Debra deepened. We traveled together, worked on projects together, built a life together. She never asked me to change or to prove myself. She loved me for who I was, not for what I had accomplished. 1 year after the trial, I proposed to her. Not at a fancy restaurant or a grand event. Just the two of us. On a quiet beach at sunset. I did not have elaborate speech prepared. I just looked at her and said, "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Will you marry me?" She said yes. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. No media, no spectacle, just love. Samuel was my best man. He gave a speech about how far I had come. How proud he was, how he always knew I would make it. My younger brother was there too, tears in his eyes, telling me he never doubted me. It was the happiest day of my life. As for my company, Sterling Solutions continued to grow. We expanded into new markets, launched new products, and became one of the most successful tech companies in the world. But I also started using my wealth for good. I created a foundation that provided funding and mentorship for young entrepreneurs who had been rejected or overlooked. I wanted to help people like me, people who had great ideas but no resources. I funded scholarships, business incubators, and community programs. I met with struggling founders and shared my story. I told them that failure is not the end. That rejection is not the final word. That they could rise from the ashes and build something extraordinary. One day, I received a letter. It was handwritten, no return address. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. It was from Sophia. The letter was short. She wrote, "John, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you probably hate me, and you should. I destroyed the best thing I ever had. I was selfish, cruel, and blind. I do not expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I could not see then. You were always enough. You were always more than enough. I was the one who was not. I hope you are happy. I hope you found someone who sees your worth. You deserve that." I read the letter twice, then folded it and put it in a drawer. I did not respond. There was nothing left to say. Debra walked into the room and wrapped her arms around me. "What was that?" she asked. "Just something from the past," I said. "It does not matter anymore." She kissed my cheek. "Good. Because the future is so much better." She was right. The future was better. I had built a life I was proud of. I had a wife I loved. I had a purpose that mattered. And I had learned the most important lesson of all. That other people's opinions, their betrayals, their cruelty, none of it defines you. You define yourself. By your choices, your resilience, your refusal to give up. Sophia told everyone I was a failure. And maybe, in that moment, I was. But I did not stay that way. I left for 2 years. And I came back a self-made billionaire. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted to prove her wrong. But because I refused to let her words become my reality. And that is the greatest victory of all.